темной ночью тени крадется.
In a precision overnight strike, Ukrainian forces targeted the base of the Russian Naval Special Forces unit Española in the occupied town of Chornomorsky, Crimea. The strike is the latest in a series of deep attacks into Russian-occupied territory, as Ukraine continues its campaign to undermine Russian military infrastructure in Crimea. While Ukrainian authorities have not officially commented on the results of the operation, Russian sources were quick to claim that the base was evacuated in time thanks to advance warning, allegedly provided by Russian intelligence services. According to these same sources, the personnel of the Española unit relocated shortly before the missiles struck, and no casualties were reported. The Russian narrative portrays this as a tactical success, emphasizing the supposed efficiency of their FSB intelligence. Footage circulated by Russian-affiliated channels shows damage to the site, but no visible personnel or equipment. These images appear intended to preempt Ukrainian claims of a successful hit, suggesting that the unit had already moved and portraying the attack as a wasted effort. Russian commentators insist that Española remains intact and accuse Ukrainian forces, derisively called Kyiv regime militants in Russian propaganda, of trying to eliminate one of the most active and experienced Russian units in Crimea. However, it is important to treat such Russian claims with skepticism. The Kremlin and its affiliated media have a long history of minimizing losses and manipulating information for propaganda purposes. Whether the strike caused casualties or equipment losses remains unclear, but the fact that Ukraine is able to target elite Russian units deep inside occupied Crimea is itself a sign of increasing Ukrainian capabilities and the vulnerabilities of Russian positions. This latest strike reinforces Ukraine's message: no part of occupied territory is beyond reach, and every Russian military presence in Crimea is a legitimate target. Sentinel-2 L2A images show the aftermath of recent drone attacks on Russia's Kristall oil depot near Engels 2 Air Base in Saratov region. 4 fuel tanks are completely destroyed, and another 4 were likely damaged significantly. Throughout the day, Russian airspace is being harassed by the Chaklun V drone operated by Ukrainian Special Services and the SBS. This particular drone was jammed by enemy electronic warfare systems in a forest near Petrovsk, Saratov region. It fell about a kilometer short of the Gazprom Transgaz Saratov facility. Also, another previously known drone, which had flown over Alabuga, was spotted following it. Its fate is currently unknown. Reports say it is still flying.
Это беспилотник. Это...
From Lapland in the high north of Finland to Lublin province in eastern Poland, a new and explosive iron curtain is about to descend across Europe. Every NATO country along that line has decided that deterring Russian invasion requires a defensive measure that would once have been inconceivable. If necessary, they will sow the tranquil forests of pine and birch along their borders with millions of landmines, a weapon previously considered so abhorrent that most of the world tried to ban it forever. Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland have announced they will leave the Ottawa Convention of 1997, which prohibits anti-personnel landmines. Later in June, all 5 states are expected to give the United Nations formal notice of their withdrawal, allowing them to manufacture, stockpile, and deploy such munitions from the end of the year. Together, they guard 2,150 miles of NATO's frontier with Russia and its client state of Belarus. Military planners are already working out which expanses of European forest and lakeland would be planted with these deadly devices, laden with high explosives and shrapnel if Vladimir Putin were to mass his forces against the alliance. The impending return of minefields in vast areas of Europe signals the quiet demise of the international campaign to ban these weapons, famously adopted by the late Princess Diana during her visit to Angola in January 1997. "I come with my heart, and I want to bring awareness to people in distress," she said, after treading a narrow path between live mines. Tony Blair took up the cause with such fervor, that in his fourth week as prime minister later the same year, he prohibited the production and export of landmines. Britain campaigned to make this ban global through the Ottawa Convention, which was eventually signed by 164 countries. Blair even ensured that Britain ratified the convention in time for the first anniversary of Princess Diana's death. One ardent supporter was Lord Robertson, the co-author of Britain's latest defense review. As Defense Secretary in 1998, he condemned landmines as neither morally correct or militarily useful, adding, "We must use Britain's moral authority to make sure our position becomes the international standard." But international standards have changed since Putin launched his onslaught against Ukraine in 2022, and landmines turn out to have their uses after all. Banning them might have been a luxury cause for a dominant West in the years of safety after the Cold War, yet no longer. Britain has not publicly opposed the decision of 5 allies to abandon the Ottawa Convention. Instead, as Europe rearms to deter Putin, what was once unconscionable has become unavoidable. Of all the countries that will now equip themselves with landmines, Lithuania's position is perhaps the most sensitive. The largest of the Baltic states, it must defend 2 hostile frontiers totaling 450 miles, with Belarus to the east and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad to the west. In between lies a vital corridor of territory, known as the Suwalki Gap, which slices across the only overland route for NATO reinforcements to reach the Baltic states. If Putin's tanks are going to come, they will strike across this peaceful landscape of scattered villages and whitewashed churches amid green, untouched forest. And the most vulnerable area of Lithuania is probably a parrot's beak of territory jutting into Belarus, where no village is more than a few miles from a hostile border on 3 sides. Scarcely anywhere is closer to the frontier than the wooden homes of the hamlet of Shadjunai at the very tip of the beak. This densely wooded area, inhabited by deer and the occasional wolf, is already highly sensitive. Walk through pine and birch trees, and you suddenly encounter a sign reading "Stop" and "Enter only upon authorization by State Border Guard Service." With that permission, you can go forward to see a silver fence reinforced with coiled razor wire gashing its way through the forest. This is NATO's border with Belarus and, in effect, the front line of the Western world. Any new minefields would probably be laid here, making the warning signs even more menacing. All of this fills Jadwiga Makovich with dread. She lives in one of Shadjunai's modest houses. Hers is painted green and yellow, just a stone's throw from the border fence. She was born here in 1941, the year of Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union, and her earliest memory is of the retreating Germans burning down Shadjunai in 1944. The Ukrainian Navy destroyed another Russian boat carrying troops near the western Kherson coast. Ukrainian forces continue to pressure Russian positions along the Kherson coast, using small boat raids, drone strikes, and artillery to disrupt enemy logistics. Fighting remains intense near the Dnipro River's eastern bank, where Ukrainian units are holding and expanding bridgeheads under constant Russian fire. Zelensky met with Emmanuel Macron on the sidelines of the NATO summit in The Hague. French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz had trilateral talks before the start of the NATO summit in The Hague. France, Britain, and Germany are spearheading European efforts to revive negotiations with Iran over its nuclear program. The 3 leaders traveled together to Kiev in May to show their support for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. On Air Force One en route to the Hague NATO summit, Trump says, "We solved the Israel-Iran issue. Now we're heading to solve a new set of problems." Asked about Zelensky, "Maybe we'll meet. I'll ask how he's doing. It's a tough spot he never should have been in." On Russia, Putin called asking to help with Iran. I told him, "I don't need help with Iran, I need help with you."
Mr. President, if there's language in the final summit declaration about aggression by Russia, would you be okay with that kind of language?
Well, I'll have to take a look at it, but I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, "Can I help you with Iran?" I said, "No, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you." And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia.
Zelensky and Starmer met with Ukrainian defenders undergoing training in the United Kingdom. The president of Ukraine stated that thanks to the support of the United Kingdom, around 58,000 people have received training as part of the Interflex program, now in its third year and joined by 13 countries.
Charlie, you works my headquarters.
Thank you, dear Prime Minister, dear Keir, thank you for invitation. And we are very thankful to UK, all your team and people of the United Kingdom for such big support of Ukraine from the very beginning of this war. I'm very thankful to all of you. I'm very thankful for this meeting, for the decision of support militarily and financially Ukraine. Thank you. Slava Ukraini. Thank you, Keir. Thank you.
Have you done some of the training before? Okay, so it's your first time with Interflex.
Я бачу, наші люди, вони з першого дня знають, що робити.
Вони в нас питають, як би що вчинили. Включаєшся через тиждень. Намагаюся зрозуміти, так.
А українську мову колеги знають?
У них також. Але не в тому
You understand some words in Ukraine? A little bit. Бажаю вам всього успіху, всього найкращого. Повертайтесь додому з досвідом. Бережіть себе.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.